And welcome back to another episode of PC 419. AMD have sent us the RX6800 graphics card here. I know it's a bit late to the game, but unfortunately it came late to the studio. I've got the 6800 XT coming next week here at the studio as well. But let's check out the 6800, see what it's all about. Is it worthy of your machine to be playing games? Let's find out. Alright, so we've got the 6800 here. Let's pull it out of the box and see what it's like. I've got to say, AMD now, the box actually isn't that big, but it actually does feel a bit heavy. I actually really like the black accent here on this box here. So you can see here, it's got the AMD Radeon symbol on here. It's got the uncompromisable 4K gaming, AMD Fidelity FX optimized. It's got 16 gig of memory and it's PCIe 4.0 ready. Reading that upside down, but I still read it, so pretty good. So taking this off, it's got foam back here. It's also got a card on here with, looks like a barcode on there. I'm not sure it's got any codes on them, so I'm not gonna pull that out. And let's have a look at the graphics card. You can see here, it actually looks pretty good. It's actually very well packed here. I've got to give AMD at least that matter. And just the box. And here is a card here. Actually looks really, really good. So you've got 3 fans on here. They're all the same size. You've got your PCI slot here, which is PCI 4.0, by the way. It's got 2 power connectors, so 2 8-pin power connectors. It has got a full-size backplate on here, and there's your GPU back right there for chrome accent, which is really, really nice. And let's have a look at the ports. So it's got 1 HDMI, 2 display, and then 1 USB Type-C. It is a 2-slot card as well, but we'll get more of that into the specs. But I think what we better do here is we're going to put it into, it's not really my test bench, it's actually more the video bench. I'm actually benchmarking this on a 5950X. So I wanted to go full on with this, and I'm running at 1440p. So most of my benchmarks run at 1440p. So all my games, benchmarking, 3D marking, all that is all at 1440. I'll be running this at stock clocks as well, and also stock clocks on the 5950X. And then you guys can obviously go down there if you want to try 1080p, or if it's 4K as well. You can probably check out another reviewers for those benchmarks. But I think what we're going to do now is that we'll put this in there, see what it's like, see how it looks as well, and we'll go from there. And then back then we'll have a look at the specs as well as the benchmarks. All right, so what we'll do is we'll get the card in here, we'll power it up. But like I said, this is only for visual thing. Then I'll be running it on my main test bench here as well. So just want to see what the card actually looks like. And it's obviously easy to install. Now it does have 2 8-pin connectors on here. What we're doing is for this occasion, I'll be running a single rail. Now with pretty much all my test rigging and all my benchmarking as well. One of the reasons why I haven't got the test bench here is because I've actually got it on another location, which I'll be running the benchmarks on this. And then we'll be coming back to here to see what my final thoughts are as well. So I'm just going to power this up now. Put the power in here. All right, we're in. And power up. So it is a 2-slot card here as well, 16 gig of DDR6. It isn't DDR6X, it's just standard DDR6. It's 256-bit as well, but let's just go into the specs. The card looks actually fantastic in here. Obviously, it's got plenty of room. And if you wanted to add another card, which probably wouldn't, Crossfire doesn't really exist anymore. Let's have a look at that. But what we'll do now, let's go straight into the specs, and then we'll probably go straight into the benchmarks and then have my final thoughts. So let's have a look at the specs of the RX6800. So it has 60 compute units. It has a boost frequency of 2105 and a base of 1815. It has 60 ray tracing accelerators, as well as 240 texture units. Now the GPU power itself is rated up to 250 watts. Now they're saying the minimum power PSU requirements on this GPU is 650 watts. Let's have a look at the GPU memory. So Infinity Cache is 128 meg, has a memory speed of 16 gigabits per second and a max memory size of 16 gig. Now the memory type, as I mentioned before, is GDDR6. Has a memory interface of 256 bits, as well as memory bandwidth of up to 512 gigs per second. Now supporting for HDMI, so HDMI, it does support 4K support for HDMI, also supports 4K H.264 decode and H.264 encode. Also supports H.265, HVEC and HVEC encode as well, decode and encode. And also supports AV1 decode. So for connectivity, the DisplayPort is 1.4 with SDSC as well as HDMI 2.1 with VRR and FRL. Now the dimensions of the card, as I mentioned before, is about 267 millimeters with 2 slots. As well as the power connectors, it has 2 8-pin power connectors and is also supported for Windows 10 and for Linux. Now, what are your thoughts on those benchmarks? I've got to mention that this card actually handled it very, very well. AMD have actually jumped pretty much good old days of having an AMD video card where you'd have people will mention, and it'll be NVIDIA fans on this, that if you had an AMD video card, it is literally going to heat up, you complete your PC up, or you can cook something on it. AMD have actually jumped a hell of a lot now, even with the 5700, 5600, with the 5000 series GPUs into the 6000 GPUs now. Their cooling capacity on these cards are absolutely fantastic. 70 to 80 degrees on maximum, and on low, probably about between 40 and 45 degrees, which is pretty good, I should say. The card did clock very well. Now, like I said, I mentioned before, all my benchmarks are at 1440p, and that is my sweet spot for my benchmarking. I don't like to go 1080p or to 4K, even though it's capable of actually doing that. But when I do my benchmarking, I always at 1440p because I see that as like the happy medium between the two. A lot of people are now jumping onto 1440p, and to have benchmarks on both, if you are going to have a graphics card of this caliber and you're running it at 1080, I don't think it's really worth it, to be honest. Or if you're going to 4K, you're barely going to be using it. So 1440p for me is the sweet spot. With the 5950X, obviously you can go a bit lower. You can check out other reviewers to see what other CPUs are out there that can obviously do with this card. But running on a 5950X, you'll be able to see what it's actually maximum capable of doing. Now, these cards here for about $800 for the reference card, or $900 for the reference cards Australian. I can't find one. And if you're trying to find a 6800 even in an AIB card, in Australia, they're ranging between $1,100 to about $1,400, depending on what brand you're going to be buying out there. Pretty much Sapphire is pretty much the main brand here in Australia that everyone's looking for at the moment, or actually it's actually being sold. So they're the sort of things you can try and get. Unfortunately, for 2020, GPUs have been the worst year to buy a graphics card. Doesn't matter if it's NVIDIA or AMD. So good luck trying to find one. I know there's a lot of scalpers out there. They've actually bought these cards and they're trying to sell them for quick buck, or even $200 or $300 Australian dollars more. Even in US dollars, I've seen some ridiculous prices. I wouldn't be buying one. I'll be waiting for 2021 until stock comes in and buying the card directly from the retail store or for the online store as well. But guys, what do you think of the RX6800? Is it worthy for you? Is it something that's sort of capable of doing? Just remember, these are more rasterization scores. So this is raw power. So if you're looking at something that's got RT or ray tracing or DLSS, obviously this is not going to be the card for you. You'll be looking at in the NVIDIA version of this. But if you are looking just for pure performance, you just want FPS, and it does look great as well, the AMD 6000 series will be fantastic. So we are going to get the 6800 XT next week. So hopefully I'll have a look at that and see what that raw performance of that video card is going to become when it comes out. But I've got to say, I'm pretty happy with the 6800. And I think that if you are pretty much got an X570 board or an X470 running 5000 series processors with these 6000 series GPUs, you'll be able to obviously get that SAMS performance as well, which will give you that 1 to 3% performance increase. It's not massive, but it's actually good enough to obviously give you that performance increase utilizing the CPU. The CPU will be utilizing the GPU memory, giving that smart access as well, and giving you that slight FPS bump of maybe 5 or 10 FPS. Not a lot, but it's something for free. So if you are running on AMD system. But guys, once again for joining in, I'd like to thank you for joining in. Thank you for AMD for sending me out the RX6800 to the studio. Like I said, I know it's a bit late, but it's best to actually go through the process and actually see my personal point of view on the 6000 series GPUs from AMD. Guys, if you haven't joined our social media, all the links will be in the description below. As well, will be the link for the RX6800. I don't know where you're going to buy them from, but it will be there anyway from AMD, as well as some of the retail stores here from Australia. If you want to join our Discord to join in our tech news as well, don't forget our Twitch channel as well. So we do Talking Tech. It's probably been a bit of hiatus for the last couple of weeks, or actually a month or so. I've been very busy here at work at the same time. But hopefully for 2021, I'll be kickstarting that show back up again, and that is on 8:30 p.m. on, well, at the moment it's on Wednesday, so in Australian AEDT time, I should say. Guys, once again, thank you, and guess what? I'll see you next time.